I want to correct something here from yesterday's show. When Kendrick Perkins said 80% of NBA voters for the MVP award are white. The NBA publicly announces the voters each year, and after review, it is clear the panel is much more diverse than what was portrayed by Kendrick Perkins, and we wanted to make sure that we corrected that today.
Good morning, basketball world. It is Angry Old Hoops, and I am angry, and I am old, and I'm going to act angry and old today. There's other things that are actually basketball related that perhaps I could be talking about instead, such as AD going on this tear, AD dominating, but I've really been saying that for the most part all season, that the only thing the Lakers ever needed was for LeBron James to get out of the way. So me saying it again, I don't know if that's accomplishing anything, because the LeBron deniers are going to use the same denial excuses no matter what happens. I avoid social media, uh, especially ESPN, because it's such garbage that, like, I'm pissed off before I finish my morning jog listening to this crap. But as I was scrolling, I came across this channel. They exposed me to this stupidity of Kendrick Perkins recently. And man, I've never liked Kendrick Perkins, and I've never liked the fact that someone that big, fat, dumb, and ugly has a job talking to the world and stating his opinion to the world. And I love this guy. I'll give a shout out to this channel because they get the credit for pointing this out, not me. But he just keeps talking about how dumb Perkins is, and I got to put Shaq at a pretty high on that chart too. Shaq just, you know what both of those two do? They decide that they've said something clever, and then they repeat it over and over and over all day. That's not what a smart person does. You know, it shouldn't be such a rare occasion, and you shouldn't have to point out your own cleverness if it's actually clever. Shaq might be the worst about that. But Perkins, on this take, his racist take, I remember him quoting Jay-Z or something like that's supposed to give him cred. And he couldn't stop saying it.
Is it Oochy Wally or is it one Mike? That's what Jay-Z said.
He's so embarrassing. It's like, quick, somebody run in and pat Perkins on the back for referencing Jay-Z. You are cool now. And you have to be right. I mean, you reference Jay-Z. You have to be right. And in case you missed it the 3 times he said it on the show, he repeated it after the show.
Is it Oochy Wally or is it one Mike? Like, what's the criteria? Is it Oochy Wally or is it one Mike? Carry on.
Look at that smug-ass look on his face. He really thinks he said something clever. And by the way, in his mind, it's moving the goalposts when a non-black player wins 3 times since 1990. I haven't even come right out and said what this episode is about, but I'm guessing that you guys know because this shit's all over YouTube now. I'm probably the last person to talk about it at this point. So I'm going to try and be a little bit creative and refreshing on it. For those of you who don't know what Perkins did, in his attempt to stir up racial divide, he falsely claimed that 80% of the MVP voters are white, which was not true. He very carefully chose the dates, the borders, the begin timeline and the end timeline of who and when he was looking at received MVPs while not being leading the league in scoring. So he's actually researching and finding ways to manipulate the data in order to piss people off. But here's something I haven't heard anyone else say. While Perkins' take is pretty freaking terrible, I would probably go out on a limb and say that there is some racial voting going on. I'll bet you some white people vote based on race. Guess what? I bet you some black people vote on race too. I mean, you remember how many votes Yao Ming got just because he was Chinese, and votes coming from the Chinese community? Now, are they terrible people, or is it understandable to support someone that you associate yourself with. I did see the bit where JJ Redick had the nerve on First Take. I guess it's called woke take by everybody now because that's what it's become, to call Perkins out on it. So those of you who have seen it, let me ask you a question. Is there anything else Perkins could have been saying other than pulling the race card, making this a racial thing? Because what was maybe even more disgusting than his original take was when JJ Redick called him out for it, which I kind of got to give Redick some credit for that. Take some balls to, on the air, call out your two black co-hosts when you are a white guy and white people are just getting fired left and right for saying the wrong thing. And by the way, if Perkins was white, he would be fired already. That's me pulling the race card. Forgive me, but come on. Today, you have entire departments like scouring history books to find out if white people said anything dumb anytime in their careers, and they're getting fired for shit they said 60 years ago. But Perkins can be this dumb. It's not just that Perkins pulled the race card, but it wasn't even accurate with his information.
I want to correct something here from yesterday's show. When Kendrick Perkins said 80% of NBA voters for the MVP award are white.
How do you not get punished for that? But what I really was bothered by is that then Perkins tried to claim that he wasn't making any racial innuendos.
But what we've just witnessed is the problem with this show, where we create narratives that do not exist in reality. The implication, what you are implying, that the white voters that vote on NBA are racist, they favor white people. You just said that. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That is exactly what you implied, Kendrick Perkins. That is exactly what you implied. Secondly, hold on.
I did not call. I stated the facts. And you're not about to sit up.
We all know what you implied the other day. We all know what you implied just now. Hold on.
I stated it's the facts. It's the facts. It's the facts.
And he starts shouting over the top of JJ Redick, which is another indicator that your host is not intelligent when their only way out is to get louder. And you see Shannon Sharp do this to people all the time. Just start getting loud and shouting. He abuses Skip Bayless all over the place. Not to defend Skip Bayless, because I don't like him either. But they both do that. This might be the number one thing that bothers me about it. The cowardice while pretending to be brave. Because why else was he doing this? He wanted props from somebody. He wanted cred. He wanted to be seen as calling out the man for showing racial favoritism. And you tell me what else he could possibly have meant by this. Listen to it. Think about it. What else could he have possibly meant by it?
It comes down to guys winning MVP since 1990. It's only 3 guys that won the MVP that wasn't top 10 in scoring. Do you know who those 3 guys were?
Who were they?
Steve Nash, Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki. Now,
Dirk Nowitzki.
what do those guys have in common? I'll let it sit there and marinate. You think about it. Now,
real quick, what was with that laugh? I mean, he was really pleased with himself for finding this racist nugget.
Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki.
So the problem is that after he gets challenged on his facts, then he claims he never said it. Like, oh, no, you never heard those words out of my mouth. I mean, that is so cowardly. There's no way anyone doesn't think that's what you were saying. And to top that off, then after the Redick bit, then he tweets, I stand by what I said. I stand by what I said. You just denounced it on television and told everyone that you never said it. What's going through this guy's mind? And then he follows it up by saying that he's calling out facts and not afraid to address the elephant in the room. Well, what was the elephant in the room? Are you back to saying it was the racism. This guy reminds me of the mentality of a LeBron James fan because they are all over the place. They don't need facts. They don't need reality. They just need to come up with an idea and then run any direction possible to stick with that idea. Because if you want cred for doing that, you can't turn around and as soon as you get challenged on it, be like, no, that's not what I was doing. That's not what I was doing. Fucking coward. What a coward. And then he starts yelling, I was just saying the facts. I was just saying the facts. And then his facts were so far off that the show itself had to come back on and issue an apology. Listen, Perkins couldn't get Dirk Nowitzki's name pronounced correctly the entire rant that he was on. He mispronounced it multiple times.
Dirk Nowitzki.
You're a TV host. You're a sports analyst. What a terrible thing to give Perkins the credit for. Really, he's just a reality TV person who says dumb shit to get people to react. But the fact that you are in the sports world, that you played the same sport, and you know damn well who you're talking about, and you can't pronounce his name correctly. Again, I think that might get other people fired if they couldn't pronounce the name correctly after multiple tries. Does he really not know how to say Dirk's last name, or is he doing that as intentional disrespect?
And I asked, what is the criteria for asking these questions for a reason?
Is it too much for me to ask him to stop saying axe? You know what the damn word is? Man, there's a lot of dumb people on TV. There are a lot of dumb people on TV. And you got to ask, is it because these people are actually this dumb that they're saying these dumb things? Or are they supposed to act that dumb because we are responding by giving them the ratings? If they weren't getting the ratings, they would have to change their content to match whatever would get them the ratings. So who's to blame? Is it the hosts? Is it whoever out in the world supposedly effed up for them to rant on about? Or is it us collectively? I know not everyone is guilty of this, but is it us collectively tuning in to this garbage? Which brings me to woke culture, all the woke people out there, because this is the most unethical, detached, wouldn't help their neighbor across the hall out of a burning apartment generation that's ever existed, while simultaneously finding their identity in shouting on the internet what other people are doing wrong. And I see it anytime I go out to play basketball. I mean, these guys have to insult each other after every play. They have to talk trash after every play. They're throwing racial slurs at each other on the court, no matter what color they are, and then go home and will jump on the internet and talk about what this person said was wrong. I mean, it's just such horse crap. Whether it's right or wrong, it's hypocrisy. None of you give a shit if someone's being respected or not. You give a shit about whether or not someone's listening to you complain. I caught that they also ripped on Shannon Sharp, which, hey, I got to be a fan if you're ripping on Shannon Sharp. He's up there with the worst people to have to listen to. And I guess Shannon went on a tirade. There was this other show that interviewed Giannis, and they didn't trick him. They asked Giannis to read a script. And then, so on the Skip and Shannon show, they took it out of context and made it look like Giannis was actually calling out KD, which, why is it calling out KD? Why isn't it calling out LeBron? No one's more guilty of teaming up with superstars than LeBron. But anyway, somehow this is about KD. And here's Shannon just going off, just shredding Giannis for what wasn't even a real comment.
Hey, Shannon, what are you reading into what Giannis said there?
I don't think it was cute. You got to remember now, you talking about carrying a team, remember what you was doing before you traded for True Holiday. Remember what you was doing before Chris Middleton became of age. Let me tell you what you did. You lost, before you got a Holiday, you lost in the Eastern Conference.
But I'm going to use this opportunity to show another racial discrepancy. Then I came across this Hasan dude, the guy who actually hosted the show that interviewed Giannis, and he comes on and he blames Skip Bayless for the whole thing. And Skip was guilty, but this Hasan dude goes on and says, if you don't know who Skip Bayless is, he's this old white dude who talks all this shit.
You know who Skip Bayless is? If you don't know who Skip Bayless is, he's an old white man named Skip Bayless.
And goes on to blame Skip Bayless for taking his interview out of context, which he did. But I don't know. I don't understand how Shannon Sharp got left out of that mix. That's not equivalency. And Stephen A. doesn't help. Stephen A. can't stop reminding everyone that he's black. The only reason I give Stephen A. Smith a higher intelligence rating than a Perkins is that he can actually spit out his thoughts in rapid succession, where Perk sounds like he is still gaining a grasp on the English language. Perkins should not be on television. Why do all these people get to have an opinion? You shouldn't be watching me right now.